Hi, this is Mark from ITCU Solutions, and today I just want to go over my second part to how to set up a Fortianalyzer. In the first part, we just went through and showed you how to set up the virtual machine in our VMware environment, and hopefully it should be identical to virtually other virtual environment you have out there. But today, all we're basically going to try to accomplish is how do you set up your devices and also possibly a firewall to allow you to connect devices to your Fortianalyzer. And the first thing I'll let you know is we're going to have multiple VDOMs on our Fortianalyzer. You do have to put in a command from the CLI in order to enable VDOMs. I did that on my other video, so if you want to see how to do that, just scroll to the end of the other video. It's right at the very end. But we're going to get started on showing you how to set up a VDOM, set up a user, and then add a couple devices. So I'm going to log in right now, and it's just going to be the admin user. And I'm going to skip this part because by default, basically everything gets set up. I registered it. You might have to specify your host name and password when you start up, but I'm going to skip the backup strategy because this is just a lab demonstration. So we're going to click through this and later and just finish that. And I'm going to do this. You could normally what you'd want to do if you're going to create new ADOMs and you're at the screen, you would do it from this screen, but since I know you're not necessarily going to be at this screen, I'm going to show you how to do it from the general screen because this only comes up when you first log in. So I'm going to go into the root administrative domain. And when you're in the root administrative domain, the way you want to do it here is what you're going to do is go down to system settings and your ADOMs will show up right here. So we're going to click on an ADOM. And what you'll see right off the bat is we have a root ADOM already created by default. And then it has all these other templates for specific devices. Now, in my case, I have multiple clients, so I'm going to set it up the way I normally do. And I'm not going to set it up per device. I'm going to set it up basically per customer. You might want to do it per area or however you want to set up your administrative domains. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new ADOM by going into Create New. And I'm just going to call mine ITCU Solutions. And get the name in there. And I don't have any devices yet. I'll come back and select them in a minute. Normally, one of the things you'd probably change, you might change your data policy, but is probably how much you allocate. By default, it's going to allocate 50 gigs. If you only have one device with a couple Forti switches, if you only have one firewall, it doesn't have a lot of traffic, you might want to kick it down to 10 gigs or something instead of 50 or scale it up based on that. The only thing I have to do in this, since it's just a lab, we're just going to change the time zone. So I'm just going to go in and select my time zone real quick. And I'm just going to change mine to mountain time and basically just click OK and let it create the ADOM. Like I said, you might want to change the size of that or something like that, depending on what you're doing. And you can see, like I said, by default, it just created the ADOM at 50 gigs, as you can see here. So the next thing, all I really have to do, since in my case, I'm going to have multiple customers, so I need to create administrators for each one of my administrators I'm going to have log in. I'm not going to give them the ability to get into the ADOMs, but I do still need to create an administrator. So I'm going to click on administrators and I'm going to click new. And I'm just going to go to administrator from the drop down. And I'm just going to call this one user or something like that. And make it easy so when we go to log in later. And remember, these are case sensitive. Whatever name, maybe you would want to call yours ITCU Solutions or whatever the name of the ADOM you're going to be using to keep it simple. We're going to stick with local because we're not going to be using anything like TACACS or anything to log in. So I'm just going to create a password here and I'm going to keep it simple. Maybe I'll just call it user, just like whatever, since this is just for a lab, and I'll confirm it. Obviously, you're going to want to have a real password in there. And I'm not, for a token, all that stuff, I'm not worried about demonstrating how to lock this thing down at this point. I just want to show you how to set these up. So what we're going to do is we're going to restrict this person to the ADOM that they should log into. So I'm going to click on specify. and I'm going to select from the list of administrative domains. And in this case, I'm going to specify, I'm going to scroll down a little bit and look for my type. Let's see here. I'm on a scroll up. I must have, oh, there's ITCU solutions. Okay. So we'll click OK now, because what I'm doing is I'm setting the ADOM I want this user to be able to log into. And because this is the only ADOM he's going to be able to log into in the next part, the ADOM profile, it's not going to be per ADOM because he's only going to have access to one, or she's only going to have access to one. It's going to be single. I'm going to change it from restricted user because they basically have only read access. So I'm going to go to standard user because I can't give them a super user because that would give them the ability to change ADOMs. I just want them to be able to have complete ability to change stuff actually in their ADOM. A standard user will do that. And then I'm just going to click OK. And I'm going to say OK. This obviously won't pop up to you if you put in a good password. And so now I have a user just called user that's basically the administrator over my ITCU solutions ADOM. It will be able to add devices and all those things, but it won't have basically the system settings part of this that will allow you to change ADOMs. And we'll log into that to add the second device today. The first one we'll do with the super user. The second we'll do with the standard user to show you how this works. Okay, so basically our Fortianalyzer is basically already set up, except for that we have to add devices. Obviously, you'd add as many users as you need for administrative domain, but this is all we're going to do. So we're just going to move right to adding devices. So what I'm just going to do is add my firewall I have here in the lab. So I'm going to go up to my firewall, and I'm already on log settings. So when you log into your firewall, I was already logged in to speed this video up, you just go down to under log reports and click on the log settings tab. As you see, I have tab there. And if you look over here under log settings, you'll see where it says send logs to Fortianalyzer. I'm just going to enable that because I'm going to have to authorize this. So the first thing I'm going to do is test connectivity just to make sure it can talk to it. And then it obviously worked because now it's giving me the choice to authorize. Now I'm going to click on authorize and I'm going to approve it. And I'm going to say okay. Okay. So I'm basically telling the Fortianalyzer it's okay, or telling my firewall it's okay if this particular Fortianalyzer that's at 10.2.270 can manage it. Now, if you're going to be using security logs or something like that, you might want to actually click on real time here. That way it sends the logs in real time. It doesn't wait every minute or every 5 minutes to forward logs. And don't worry about this connectivity issue, zero logs. We haven't actually gone into our Fortianalyzer yet and added the device. So what we're going to do is hit apply here. Okay. And then we're going to go back over to our Fortianalyzer. And what I'm going to do now is go back into my ADOM. Because if you notice up here, I'm still in root, right? So I need to actually manage go to the ADOM itself to manage it. And so I'm just going to go to edit. So I selected my ADOM. Now I'm going to go to edit. And I'm just going to hit select device. Okay, so I can select it. It sees it. And I'm just going to say okay. So I have the device and click OK. And because this is a local firewall that doesn't have to go through another firewall rule set, it will just send the syslogs on UDP 514, and it'll be able to authorize itself over TCP 443. And so everything will just work right out of the box. You don't have to do anything. In fact, if I go look at my FortiGate now over here, I should be able to just refresh my screen. Or look, it's already said connected, already refreshed. So you can see it came back as connected, and I already have a chart that's telling me that it's sending logs. Even though it says it doesn't there. Even though it's telling me it has a connectivity issue. You can see once I refresh, that goes away, and everything is working fine. It's very simple, it's very straightforward to do this. Now, if the second thing we're going to go over is how do you send connect your Fortianalyzer to devices that are outside your security perimeter, where it's going to have to actually go through another firewall. So what we're going to do is go to our firewall here, because this is the firewall that our next firewall is going to be sending logs through. And so we're just going to go up to the policy and objects, because you are going to have to create a policy. Now in my case, I only have one external IP address, so I'm going to go to virtual IPs. And on these virtual IPs, I already have 3 of them created. You'll see any of them that are on the 10.2.270 here. These are all my virtual IPs for the Fortianalyzer. Now you'll see I have 443, I have ICMP for pinging it, and 443 is basically so it can check in and authorize itself and all that good stuff. 9997 is, I believe it's also used for some kind of management thing. It might work without that, but in my case, since this is outside my firewall, I have to set up something for my logging on 514. Now, inside, it's fine to use UDP, and you can use UDP if you're external as well. But I'm going to set all my Fortianalyzers up as reliable so they can use TCP. And the reason I want to do that is when I set my firewall policy, I know for sure I don't have to set up a mirrored policy going back the other way. I don't have to worry about it because the session will be kept. It may or may not work correctly with UDP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a Fortianalyzer virtual IP that sends on syslog, on my syslog 514 port, I'm going to make it TCP. So I'm going to go up to create new, and you'd have to do this for all of them if you're doing a VIP like I am, because I'm just setting up port forwarding. So I'm just going to call this syslog or something like that. So, and maybe I should put in Fortianalyzer, but we're not going to worry about that right now. And I apologize, I forgot my IP here, so I'm gonna have to look it up. Okay, and I'm gonna throw that in here under external range, and then I'm just gonna map that to my Fortianalyzer, which is 10.2.2.70, and then I have to turn on my port forwarding. And just remember, you're going to have to do this for every port you need. So if you're using 514, 443 is a minimum. You have to do it for those. And again, since I'm going to set my my client, my Fortinet client on the other side up as reliable, I want this set to TCP, but it does have to be port 514, standard syslog. So I'm going to type 514 on both of these. And you're going to want it to be mapped 1-to-1. Whoops, if I can type. And then just click OK. Okay, so I have all my virtual IPs in there already. Now I have to also create a firewall policy. So I'm going to go up to my firewall policy. And in my case, this is going to be coming from, and for you, if this is external to your network, it should be coming from your WAN interface. But it might be going to DMZ or whatever you're doing. In my case, it's in the inside, it's internal. So you can see I already have a policy called WAN1 to internal. And I'm just going to click on this policy. And I'm going to go up and edit it. Now, you can see right off the bat, you already know my interfaces. Coming in is going to be WAN1, outgoing is internal. Now, I'm not going to worry about the services down here, but what I do know, like source right now is all, but if I was doing this for real, I would create a group for all my clients and I'd add their IPs, and they're the only ones that allow through this rule. But since I'm going to delete this rule when we're done, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to leave sources all, but you should restrict that down to whoever your clients are going to be. And the destination, these are just my VIPs from the last one. So I'm just going to add one to show you what we did. And we're going to add the VIP we just added, which should have been called syslog. So we're going to have to scroll down. Hopefully now that I think about it, there's not something else called syslog. So I'm just going to click on this. And I'm going to point to that just to make sure that was correct. And it is, okay. It's TCP 514. And when you're using a VIP, it doesn't hurt maybe you should go and just add the individual ports, but again, this is a lab demonstration. So under service, I'm going to leave it as all plus the VIP itself. Kind of, if you don't have a VIP there for a different port, it shouldn't work anyways. So I'm just going to leave it as that. The other thing is I have to leave NAT off, as you'll see right here. You got to leave that off because when your external device sends traffic back, if you put NAT on, everything will look like it's coming from the firewall, this fronting firewall, which we don't want. We want to be able to check our devices individually and know where the logs are coming from. So NAT's off, and we'll just click OK. Okay, so we have our policy now, you see there, from our WAN to our internal. We're using a VIP. Now, if you have multiple public IPs, you don't have to do this. You can just put it on a separate public IP and create a different policy for that interface if it's on another interface. But this should be all we have to do, okay, as long as we set our devices up as reliable. So what I'm going to do is go to another firewall device, a FortiGate that's external to my network. And again, you go to log and report and go to log settings. Now this one is a different firmware version. It's on a different model. Now, from what I've seen, it doesn't matter how new the model is. It seems to be based on the firmware. Maybe if it's a little further, depending on, it could be in the sixes, and it might have the ability for Fortianalyzer in the GUI, or it could be 7.2. It can be newer than that on the 7.6 train. It might not have it. It all just depends on which firmware version you are. But don't panic if it's not there. You can always do it from the CLI. And I wanted to go over this one too because it doesn't include it. So we're going to do this all from the CLI. So even though I'm here, I'm going to click up on my command because I just want to show you it wasn't there. And the command for this is we're just going to type in config log as soon as I get my cursor there. And I can just tab this or and I'll start tabbing them across, and we're going to do Fortianalyzer and then settings, and then we're just going to hit enter. And the first thing I need to do is enable it. So I'm going to type set, let's see, status, and then just enable. So there you go. Just hit enter. And now we're enabled. So once we're enabled, we're going to type set server. This is kind of as a minimum. You need to put the IP and address of your server in. And I'm going to put my IP in here. And I'm going to hit enter. Okay. I can go to the next thing I'm going to do, you don't necessarily have to do this step, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to set the serial number. So I'm going to type set space, and then I'm going to type serial. Okay, and I'm going to grab, what I'm going to do is go to my Fortianalyzer real quick and go up to my device manager, or I'm sorry, to my dashboard. Go to status, and you'll see the serial number for my Fortianalyzer. I'm just going to copy that real quick just by clicking on that and go back to this guy. And I'm just going to paste it. Now it can discover this on its own. I just like to copy and paste in there because when it does discover it, I just want to make sure it's the correct, I have the correct serial number. So I'm going to hit enter. And remember before I said I have to set this to reliable because I wanted to use TCP instead of UDP. So I'm going to type set reliable. And that's enabled, sorry, and just hit enter here. And so now that's enabled. The last thing you might want to do is, remember before you have a time interval. And so if you're going to want to send a lot of logs, you might want to set this to real time. So I'm going to type set space upload. Whoops, my bad. I hit the, oh, that's right, upload option. And I'm just going to type R for real time. And you'll see I tab that and hit that. But you have three options. Okay, you'll have three options. You can send it, pull it every 5 minutes, 1 minute. I'm just going to send it the minute that the logs come up. This does hit your CPU a little more, so just keep that in mind. And then I'm just going to type end and hit enter. And I'm going to say yes here. So what you should see when this happens is it should pop back a serial number. So I'm going to just hit Y. And you see, I'm going to check my serial number. See, it's 7078. It's what I have up above, so I know I'm fine. So I'm going to say yes to the next one, and we should be good to go. Okay, so this is effectively what we did when we authorized the other side. We just manually authorized it by saying, yes, that's the correct serial number. Okay, so now what I need to do though is I still need to go into my Fortianalyzer and I need to add this device. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Fortianalyzer, and instead of doing it from here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to log out of admin. Okay, I'm just going to log out, and I'm going to log back in as user, and the password should just be user. Hopefully, I'm clicked off of it. Sorry about that. And I'm going to go in. Now this should take me directly into the ITCU Solutions ADOM. And if you notice, if I go over to my system settings, there's basically nothing there. Like the only ADOM that shows up is my ADOM. Okay, so I can't get out of it. There's no disable or enter another ADOM. In theory, I guess I might be able to create a new one, but I can't see the other ADOMs in the system, and I don't have any other system settings over here. But what I can do is add a device, which is what or look at logs or any of those things. So I'm gonna go up to my device manager. Okay, and you can see the initial firewall I added before, but now I need to add another one. And you can see up above there's a tab called Add Device, because it's a little bit different way of doing it. And I forgot what I called that device. We can call it whatever. We'll just call it Client 1. And let's see, we need to go back over to it and get we got the serial number already, so we'll throw that in there. And we should be ready to rock and roll. We have the serial number in there, and we should be ready to go. So we're just going to click next, because we're just using the serial number now. I appreciate you. Click finish. Okay. Now we're going to have to give it a little bit of time here for it to check in, hopefully. So I'm going to refresh. I might pause the video while I'm waiting. Okay, it still hasn't checked in. So I'm going to pause the video and just give it a couple minutes. Okay, it literally took it about a minute to check in. I probably didn't really need to bother pausing the video. But you can see the IP address of client 1 pops up. It's an external address. And then you can also see over it just logged in like the other device. And so everything is basically functioning the way you want it to. Now, so that was the main thing I want to go over in this video. But there is one other thing I want to show you. So I'm going to go back to my local firewall. And I'm going to go into, one thing you probably want to do is just make sure all your logs are on. So I'm just going to look on I know it's an allow all, but this is basically a lab firewall. So I'm going to click on this guy, click edit. And I just want to scroll down to my lab logging options on all this stuff. Okay. And make sure it's on. Okay. Now, you'll probably have all your security profiles on. So like if I turn on my web filter, let's turn on the IPS and application control, and these should all be on, right? Including your antivirus. Now, if I click OK, so I made sure allow all logs, and I have all sessions checked, not just security events, all sessions. So I'm gonna click OK there. The other place you might want to turn on a lot of logs is in your actual security profiles, especially with your IPS. So you can go to your security profiles. What you want to do is go up to not application control, excuse me, intrusion prevention. And I think I was using default. So I'm gonna go up and click on the default template, or and then go to edit. Okay. Okay. So you see right off the bat, it says packing logging is disabled. So I'm going to click in here and click edit. And I would recommend enabling your packet logging. Okay. And then clicking OK. And also, if you want to monitor your botnet stuff, click monitor down here below and then click OK. Okay. And the reason I would recommend just turning on as much logging as you can right off the bat, because, and I'll go back down to log and report. I want to know if I go to forward traffic, right, what I'm sending, and I want to send as much information as possible. Okay, and then I want to be able to go back and look at my reports. Now, granted, I'm not going to have a lot of log traffic sent to the Fortianalyzer yet. And once I recreate reports over there, I can also go click down on Fortianalyzer reports here, and I can view my Fortianalyzer reports from the firewall. I don't have to, obviously there aren't any because I'm generating reports, but you can view all that stuff from the firewall or schedule reports here. And if you want to just create them willy-nilly, we can go back to the Fortianalyzer, and this is the last thing I'll go over because if I go down and click on reports, okay, and I'm going to go to report definitions is the first thing you want to do. Now, I'm not going to have any security events or anything yet. This is a lab demonstration. But what I will have is a lot of traffic going out to the internet. So your security, your SOC reports are down at the bottom. But like I said, we're not going to have any security events. So what I'm going to do, instead of going to my SOC reports, I'm going to scroll up and go to application reports, because I should have enough events for this. And I'm just going to pick something I know I'll have enough data for. So if I went to like top 20 websites bandwidth or something, I'll select that one. Doesn't really matter. I'll click run report. Maybe I won't have enough bandwidth for this. And that will have generated my report. So I will go over to generate reports. Okay. Now this isn't going to have much in it, obviously. So I'm going to select this guy. And then I'm just going to pick whatever format. Let's do PDF. Not that it'll matter. And it'll create a real nice report. And I'm wrong. I don't even have enough yet for a report here. If I waited an hour or something, I should start seeing enough. In fact, let's go back real quick to my Fortianalyzer. Let me go back to my log view up here and click logs. Do I even have it? Well, I do have the logs coming in. Action policy violation. So you do see I have the logs coming in. I probably didn't set my reports for the right time period yet, and there's not a lot going on. It looks like there's a lot of policy violations. But anyhow, this is basically all you have to do to get your devices going. The biggest challenge, like I said, is adding external devices. Just make sure you know how to set up your firewall policy and getting the data sent there. And then make sure you have your logs and as many logs as you have enabled, and depending on your license, you'll be able to generate a large variety of reports. If you have any questions about how to do anything else, please leave it in the comments. If I see them early, I'll definitely answer them, especially if it's a newer post. And I might come out with another video. We do have some other things set up so it's easier for us to manage this that I might go over how to do. But I just want to get you guys to the point where you could add your VM, you could set up your devices, get your Fortianalyzer off and running, because now you do have the basic ability to run reports and all those type of things and get your logs up there. And again, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Or if I made some mistakes, let me know. I'd appreciate that too. So I hope everyone got something out of this. Have a great day.